October 2015, Variant 1, Paper 1. This is Islamiyat, Code 2059, O Level. Um, the paper is solved here, solution of the paper, and I'm going to read it. Number 1, choose any two of the following passages from the Quran and A. Briefly describe the main themes in each passage. 4 marks. B. Briefly explain the importance of the themes in a Muslim's life today. 4 marks. Answer A. Themes. 1. Surah 96, Ayat 1 to 5. These 5 verses of the Surah Iqra or Al-Alaq are the first ever revelations that the Prophet received in the cave Hira in Ramadan 610 AD. The remaining 6 verses were revealed later when the Prophet ﷺ began to offer regular prayer in the precincts of the Kaaba. The command of read in the name of the Lord in the first verse means that the Prophet was already familiar with one supreme God. The word alaq was traditionally translated as a clot of congealed blood. In modern times, it refers to the primary state of empire. The next verses mention God's power to create humans from a humble origin and to mature them and to acquire worldly knowledge by using the pen. The ability to read and write shaped the human intellectual evolution over the ages. The last verse points to God's will to grant the human um, uh, spiritual knowledge through divine revelations as and when it was required for humans. Surah 2, Passage 2, Surah 99. Many commentators believe it to be a late Meccan surah, but some others regard it an early Madanian surah. And the surah focuses on 3 main aspects of the end of time. First, it alerts humans about the initial horrible signs of the beginning of the Day of Judgment. They include the terrible convulsions the earth will experience. The earth will throw up all its contents. Another Quranic verse mentions the same as, and when the earth is flattened and casts forth what is within it. Surah 84, ayat 3 to 4, Al Inshikak. Secondly, it informs the humans about the earth bearing witness to all their deeds. And much to their surprise, humans will be shocked and distressed to see all this as they had never imagined anything like this. Finally, it presents the scene of the divine code where all will be categorized according to their good and evil deeds, a number of immaculate justice dispensed by God, even the smallest possible deeds will be rewarded by God as He has arranged for the recording of each and every action of humans. Passage 3, Surah 114, and this is the last surah of the Quran revealed together with Surah 113. Both are called Al-Mubaddatan, the two protectors. Some traditions declare them to be Meccan surahs, but relatively stronger sources prove them to be Madanian. Both teach Muslims not to have any fears of the supernatural and the unknown. The internal and external evils that may affect them. Surah 113 mentions Iran's protection from the visible evils. This surah, on the other hand, reassures the Muslims of God's powers to protect them against the invisible or internal evil forces. Repetition of God's attributes in the first three verses implies God's special bond with humans. The remaining verses warn against Satan and mention his method of enticing humans. For this reason, Quran repeatedly declares, "Verily, Satan is an avowed enemy to man." Surah 12, Ayat 5, Yusuf. B. Importance of the themes. Um, Passage 1, 96, Ayat 1 to 5. These verses teach Muslims to acknowledge God's favor of creating humans from a low origin and that making them distinct from all other creatures by way of gaining knowledge. The gift of the knowledge is so supreme that God commanded the angels to bow down before Adam because he was made superior due to the knowledge granted him by God. The Quran states, and he taught Adam the names of all things. Surah 2, ayat 31 to 34, Al-Baqarah. According to many ahadith, pen was among the first ever creations of God. And that is why Surah 68, Al-Qalam, begins with God vowing the pen. The Quran at another place endorses the superiority of humans in these words. We have indeed created man in the best of modes. Surah 95, Ayat 4, Al 15. And they need to remember that God alone blessed them in a multiple ways, and so they need to worship and be grateful to Him. The verses highlight the importance of acquiring knowledge in order to keep their superior status. Passage to Surah 99. This surah strengthens the Muslims' belief in God's power to bring an end to time and inculcates a genuine fear of accountability before Him. The mention of intense convulsions experienced by the earth is in itself a horrifying thing to imagine. With such a belief, Muslims will learn about the worthlessness of this world and realize the value of true and eternal world. A strong fear of God and hereafter will shape the conduct of Muslims so that they will obey His commands and not commit sins. If a believer has a true belief in hereafter, he will not lose hope if he fails to get justice in this world. This belief will encourage him to avoid all possible evils. Similarly, he will try to do as many good deeds as possible because God promises the greater rewards for good deeds. This Quranic verse describes the divine justice as surely God does not do injustice to the weight of an atom, and if it is a good deed, He multiplies it. Surah 4, Ayat 40, An-Nisa. Passage 3, Surah 114. This first word, kul, say, requires the Muslims to be obedient to God as that is the only way to seek his refuge against evil. A genuine obedience removes any arrogance towards God or a false belief of having control over their destinies. Once the Prophet was riding a mule along with a companion. When the mule stumbled, the companion said, "May Satan perish." The Prophet said, "Do not say that. It encourages Satan, and he says, I knocked with my strength. But if you say, in the name of God, Satan is dwarfed and becomes like a fly. This means the remembrance of God guarantees the defeat of Satan. The surah tells Muslims to beware of Satan injecting evil thoughts in their hearts. Therefore, they follow the Prophet's tradition by reciting the last two surahs regularly before going to bed. The regular recitation of the last two surahs acts as an antidote against all satanic forces, however stronger they might be. This is because of the fact that God has ultimate control over all forces. Question 2, Part A. Using Quranic passages you have studied from syllabus and describe how God guided his messengers to increase their faith in him. Refer to at least two messengers in your answer. Surah marks 10. Part B. God sends the humankind messengers from among their own communities. Explain why this is. This is significant. Answer. Part A. The Holy Quran narrates the stories of many of the prophetic messengers. Various Quranic surahs mention various messengers from Hazrat Adam to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Passages set for special study are Surah 2, ayat 30 to 37, story of Hazrat Adam, Surah 6, ayat 75 to 79, story of Hazrat Ibrahim, and Surah 5, ayat 110, a story of Jesus Christ. In addition to these, two passages exclusively deal with the Holy Prophet, Surah 93 and Surah 108. The Quran describes the story of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam in a number of ways. At one place, it describes the story of a divine scheme arranged for successful identity of one God through the perspective of God's mighty creations. The passage 6, Surah 75 to 79, Ayat 75 to 79, Surah 6, outlined the ways through which God guided Hazrat Ibrahim to identify the Creator Lord through observing the laws by which God controls the heaven and the earth. The Quran states how God unfolded his existence to Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam by way of his observation marvels of nature, including various heavenly bodies, the stars, the sun, and the moon. In the beginning, he got impressed by their shine, but as they began to lose it, God strengthened his belief about all these being his creatures. The passage also proves that Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, like other messengers, was a man chosen by God because his intuitive progress of observing the celestial bodies and not accepting them as deities shows that it was all divinely ordained. God made arrangements for his birth in a polytheistic community that boasted of its knowledge about the heavenly bodies and Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, the quest in search of the truth that led him to identify God. Behold, he said unto his father and his people, what are these images, idols, to which you are devoted? Surah 21, Ayat 52, Al-Anbiya. After this, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, like all other messengers, was rejected by his people who even tried to kill him, but he enjoyed a special divine protection and miraculously survived in the blazing fire. We said, O fire, be you cool and a means of safety for Hazrat Ibrahim. Surah 21, Ayat 69, Al-Anbiya. Hazrat Ibrahim's prayer to create prophets from his progeny was also granted. A long line of messengers continued through his sons, Ismail and Ishaq. The Quran at many places describes the story by God strengthening the belief of Jesus Christ, Hazrat Isa. He was born miraculously unto his mother Mary, Hazrat Maryam, and was lifted alive to the heavens by God's command. The Quran says, He, Jibreel salam, said, Nay, I am only a messenger from your Lord, and to announce to you the gift of a holy son. Surah 19, ayats 19 to 20, Maryam. The passage 500 ayat 110 gives details of Jesus Christ's special association with God and a variety of prophetic signs granted to him. These include his ability to speak from the cradle, the divine gift of the book and the wisdom, his ability to give life to the dead and the lifeless objects. Moreover, by God's command, he could cure the leper and the blind. This shows how God had decreed miraculous events for Jesus Christ to prove that messengers were no ordinary humans. The purpose of granting him powers was to tell the people about the powers of God and his special relationship with God. Finally, God made Jesus a living sign by saying him, But they killed him not, nor crucified him, but so it was made to appear to them. Nay, God raised him up. Surah 4, Ayat 157 An-Nisa. Part B. According to the Quran, humans are the best creatures of God. We indeed created humans in the best form. Surah 59, Ayat 4, At-Tin. Therefore, only humans could be elevated into the status of God's messengers. Humans can best interact with fellow humans in their community, and they could address them in their language and answer the questions accordingly. So, God's messengers preached his message comfortably into their communities and were able to raise a team of sincere followers. Being God's chosen men, and they were blessed to be infallible. This made them a role model for their fellows who could follow their teachings as well as their conduct. This trait reached its perfection in the last messenger of God, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. If angels or jinns were sent as messengers, the humans, moved by their awe and powers, might have started worshipping them. This would have killed the very purpose of sending the messengers of preaching Tawheed. Question 3. Describe the events of the Battle of Uhud. 10 marks. B. Success for Muslims depends on their obedience to the Prophet. Discuss this statement in relation to Muslims today. 4 marks. Answer A. The Quraysh wanted to avenge their defeat in the Battle of Badr, as many pagans and had lost their relatives in that encounter. Abu Sufyan became the new military chief in Makkah. He was encouraged by all, including the famous Jewish poet Ka'b bin al-Ashraf, and to attack Medina with full force. Women of the aggrieved families also joined the Meccan army. They included Hind bint Utbah, wife of Abu Sufyan, Hakim, granddaughter of Abu Jahl, and Fatima, a sister of Khalid bin Walid, were also part of the women wing. Thus, Abu Sufyan was able to raise an army of 3,000 troops weighing 300 camels, 200 horses, and 700 coats of mail armor. The left and right wings were under the command of Ikrimah bin Abu Jahl and Khalid bin Walid respectively, while Amr bin al-As was the commander of the cavalry. Hind hired Washi bin Harb, the slave of Jubair bin Mut'im. He was assigned the mission of killing Hazrat Hamza, who had killed Hind's father in the Battle of Badr. This army reached north of Medina in March 625 AD, Shawwal 3 AH, and camped near the Uhud hill along the road to Syria. Hazrat Abbas sent all these details to the Prophet in a letter through a fast courier. Hazrat Hubab bin Mandar Ansari was sent to find out the number of the enemy army. The Prophet consulted his followers and accepted the proposal of facing the enemy outside Medina. He recruited 1,000 troops and left for the Uhud valley after the Friday prayer. On the way, the chief of Hypocrites, Abdullah bin Ubay, deserted with his 300 troops on the excuse that their houses were unsafe back in Medina. The Prophet camped with 700 troops on the western slope of the Mount Uhud. Hazrat Musab bin Umair was made the flag bearer. Hazrat Zubair um, Hazrat Zubair, commander of the right wing, and the horsemen. The left wing was under Hazrat Mantur bin Amr. The Prophet appointed 50 archers under Hazrat Abdullah bin Jubair on a narrow passage at the back of the Muslim army. They were strictly instructed not to leave unless ordered by the Prophet. The Quran mentions the Prophet's strategy as, remember that morning you left your household to post the faithful at their station for the battle. Surah 321, Al Imran. In the Meccan army, Khalid bin Walid was the commander of the right wing, whereas the left was under Ikrimah bin Abu Jahl. Safwan bin Umayyah led the cavalry, while Talha was the flag bearer. In the single combat, Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Hamza killed Talha and Uthman from the pagan army. With this began the general fight, and Hazrat Hamza, Hazrat Ali, and Hazrat Abu Dujana, a famous wrestler, broke into the enemy ranks. A Muslim attack was fierce, and the Quraysh began to retreat. Muslims continued to press the enemy and began to collect the spoils. When the 50 archers saw this, 36 of them also left their position and began to collect the booty. The Quran refers to these Muslims in these words: when you, with his Allah's permission, were about to annihilate your enemy until you, the archers, flinched and fell into disputing about the order and disobeyed it. Surah 3, Ayat 152, Al Imran. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid quickly mobilized his troops. Khalid bin Walid quickly mobilized his troops and attacked through the passage. This changed the scene, and the retreating Meccans also made a counterattack as they saw Khalid's powerful attack on Muslims. Many Muslims were killed, including Hazrat Hamza, who was martyred by Washi bin Harb. Washi hurled at him his spear through his navel. Hazrat Hamza tried to advance but fell down as martyr. Hind mutilated the dead body of Hazrat Hamza by chewing out his liver. In the panic, Hazrat Musab bin Umair, who resembled the Prophet closely, was killed, and it was rumored that the Prophet had been martyred. The Prophet was also wounded and lost one tooth. All this disheartened the Muslims, but soon Hazrat Ka'b bin Malik identified the Prophet and many Muslims rushed to him. Abdullah bin Kamiya struck the Prophet so hard that two links of the helmet got pierced into his face. A group of 20 companions made a shield around the Prophet and quickly climbed towards the hilltop. Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Fatima, dressed with wounds of the Prophet, Hazrat Aisha, Sulaim, and Saleh, they served water to the injured Muslims. Abu Sufyan shouted, "This day we are avenged." For Badr, his army had killed 70 Muslims and left for Mecca, challenging to fight the next year. The Prophet reorganized his army and began to bury martyred Muslims. The Quraysh lost only 22 soldiers. Part B. Muslims are required to remember this Quranic injunction, whoever obeys the messenger indeed obeys God, Surah 4, Ayat 80, An-Nisa. Muslims today should remember that fight against enemies of Islam is only in the way of God. Spoils or booty come as a bonus as they are not the real objective of armed jihad. In the Battle of Uhud, most of the 50 archers did not wait for the permission of the Prophet to leave their place, and the whole Muslim army paid the price of their mistake. Muslims should follow the code of conduct of war as taught by the Prophet. This will bring them a guaranteed success as non-Muslims will be impressed by the teachings of Islam. In times of peace, they should follow the Prophet's guidelines by being obedient to God, observing pillars of Islam, caring for others, and being polite and humble. Question 4. A. The Prophet entered Mecca and took control of it in 8 ayahs. Describe the main details of this event. Part B. The Prophet's characteristics of mercy was clearly demonstrated in this event. Is it realistic to accept Muslims today to follow this example? Answer A. The Quraysh helplessly watched the growth of Islam after the truce of Al-Hudaybiyah. Encouraged by the defeat of Muslims in the Battle of Malta, September 629 AD, they incited their ally Banu Bakr to attack Banu Quza, who were the ally of Muslims. The Meccan chiefs who provided them weapons included Ikrima bin Abu Jahl, Safwan bin Umayyah, Suhail bin Amr, and others. Consequently, several men of Banu Bakr attacked Banu Quza at night when they were asleep. Banu Quza sought shelter in the Kaaba, but the chief of Banu Bakr, Nawfal, commanded them to continue their mission. Thus, many innocent people of Banu Quza were unjustly killed. The matter was reported to the Prophet, peace be upon him, by the chief of Banu Quza, Amr bin Salim, who had rushed to Medina with his 40 men. The Prophet, according to the customs of justice, demanded the Quraysh to pay the blood money diya to Banu Quza, or break their alliance with that tribe, or dissolve the truce. The first two options went against the prestige and traditions of the Quraysh. Um, Khartha bin Umar on behalf of the Quraysh that only in the last condition they would be acceptable. However, they realized their mistake and sent Abu Sufyan to Medina to settle the issue. Abu Sufyan first went unto the Prophet and requested him to renew the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. The Prophet gave no reply. He met his daughter Ramla Habiba, one of the wives of the Prophet, but she refused to help him. He then asked Hazrat Abu Bakr and Hazrat Umar to interfere, but they too refused. He approached Hazrat Fatima, who was sitting with her son Hazrat Hassan, and tried to emotionally pressurize her by way of Hazrat Hassan. She too could not give any reassurance to him. Finally, at the insistence of Hazrat Ali, he came into the Prophet's mosque and announced that he had renewed the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. The Prophet was fully determined to take decisive action against the Quraysh. He made a secret preparations to attack Mecca and raised a huge army of about 10,000 as many Bedouin tribes joined him on his way to Mecca. In January 630, he marched towards Mecca and camped at the hills of Mar al-Zahran in the outskirts of Mecca. There at night he ordered his troops to light torches, and this was a clever military tactic as the size of the army looked magnified when the Meccan looked at it from a distance. They abandoned any hope of resisting the Muslims. Abu Sufyan, perhaps on spying commission, was captured and taken to the Prophet and embraced Islam. Next morning, the Prophet divided his army into four columns and placed each column under a capable commander, one under himself, one under Abu Ubaidah, one under Khalid bin Walid, and one given unto Sa'd bin Ubadah. He strictly forbade use of arms unless the Meccans attacked. He declared the three places of safety for every Meccan, one's, one's own house, Abu Sufyan's house, and the Kaaba. The army entered Mecca unresisted except for Khalid's column. Attack on his column led to deaths of two Muslims and 13 Meccans. The Prophet performed the tawaf of the Kaaba, went inside to pray, and then destroyed the 360 idols and other paintings and images. He was assisted by Ali in smashing idols and recited this and say the truth has prevailed and falsehood perished. For surely falsehood is bound to perish. Surah 13, Ayat 81, Al-Isra. He came out to address the Quraysh in the compound. He said, O people of Quraysh, God has abolished the haughtiness of the Jahiliyyah and its veneration of ancestors. And people all sprang from Adam, and Adam came from dust. Then he recited, O mankind, we have created you from a single pair of a male and a female. The most honored of you in the sight of God is he who is the most righteous of you. Surah 49, Ayat 13, Al-Hujurat. The Prophet then delivered a sermon about fundamentals of Islam from the Safa hill and asked the Quraysh what they expected from him. And they replied, You are a noble brother and a son of a noble brother. The Prophet stunned them by saying, No blame on you by this day. Go, you are free. And thus a general pardon was declared for all except about 10 blasphemous men. They included Habbar bin Aswad, Mikyas, uh, Subaba, Lethi, Mikhail Subaba Lethi, Huwairat bin Muqaid, Abdullah Hilal, Abdullah bin Khatal, and some others, including 4 women. However, according to many sources, only 4 of them were executed. Almost the whole of Mecca submitted to the fold of Islam, including the worst enemies like Ikrimah bin Abu Jahl, Washi bin Harb, Hamza's killer, and Hind, wife of Abu Sufyan. The Prophet stayed in Mecca for about 20 days to make arrangements for its administration. He redefined the boundaries of the Haram Kaaba, by erecting pillars. Most of the offices of the Quraysh were abolished, except for the Sakaya, serving water to pilgrims. That was given back to Al-Abbas, and the key of the Kaaba returned to Uthman bin Talha of Banu Abdar. B. The Prophet's attributes of mercy, kindness, and forgiveness will keep inspiring Muslims in all ages. The Quran instructs Muslims, you have indeed in the Messenger of God a beautiful pattern of conduct. Surah 33, Ayah 21, Al-Ahzab. Muslims can forgive their past enemies with a strong hope of reward in both the worlds. By doing so, they can win the hearts of not only their enemies but also become a role model for many. In tribal areas of Pakistan, rival parties keep breeding grudge against each other and set a vicious cycle of enmity. They should be peacefully invited to study the life of the Prophet, and told, told such a culture was the hallmark of the age of ignorance. Therefore, if they claim to be genius Muslims, they should abandon hostility and promote a culture of fraternal love. Question 5a. Give an account of the lives of Ali ibn Abu Talib and Zayd bin Haritha during the life of the Prophet. 10 marks. 2. To what extent do Ali and Zayd's relationships with the Prophet provide models for family relations today? 4 marks. Answer A. Hazrat Ali bin Abu Talib. Hazrat Ali was a cousin of the Prophet. The Prophet took Hazrat Ali as a child and to his home in order to relieve the burden of Abu Talib, who was facing financial difficulties. Thus, Hazrat Ali was blessed with the close company of the Prophet from a very young age. When the Prophet proclaimed prophethood before his relatives, only Hazrat Ali stepped forward and embraced Islam, being a second or third Muslim. He was 10 or 11 then, and the Quraysh laughed at Ali and made an amir that they should obey. His conversation at such a young age shows his boldness and the Prophet's trust in him. He stood by the Prophet during the persecutions and the social boycott. When the Prophet decided to migrate to Medina, he asked Hazrat Ali to sleep in his bed as a decoy and to return belongings to their owners the following morning. In Medina, when the Prophet was comparing Muhajirin with Ansar by Mawaqat, he declared Hazrat Ali as his brother in faith. Hazrat Ali set several examples in almost all the battles. In the Battle of Badr, he fought in a single combat together with Hazrat Hamza and Hazrat Abu Ubaidah. He killed many pagans. In the Battle of Uhud, he became the flag bearer after the martyrdom of the first flag bearer After the battle, Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Fatima watched the bound of the Prophet in the Battle of the Trench. He repulsed the band of the Meccans who had crossed the ditch and killed some of them. Hazrat Ali played a decisive role in the conquest of Kaaba by killing Marhab, the famous Jewish commander and custodian of the fort of Qumuz. He was given the title Asadullah, a lion of God, by the Prophet. He was the scribe of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah in 68 or 628 AD. He was also a major scribe of the Quran. He was one of the flag bearers of the army that conquered Mecca in 8 AH or 630 AD. He was also assisted by he also assisted the Prophet in smashing the idols in the Kaaba. When the Prophet raised an army for the Tabuk expedition, Hazrat Ali was not included in it, but the Prophet consoled him by saying, "You are to me just as Harun was to Musa, except that there will be no prophet after me." When Hajj became obligatory in 10 AH, the Prophet received some verses of the Surah 9 Al Tawbah, and he asked Hazrat Ali to but the read out the verses to the Muslims. Same year, he was appointed Qazi, judge of Yemen by the Prophet. The Prophet acknowledged Hazrat Ali's wisdom by saying, "The most learned in legal matters is Ali." While returning from farewell pilgrimage, the Prophet stayed at Ghadir Khum, delivered a short speech, then raised his hand and said, "Of whomsoever I am Lord, friend, Mawla, this Ali is his Lord, friend too." Shia Muslims take it as an indication by the Prophet to appoint Hazrat Ali his successor. During the last days of the Prophet's life, he attended to him fully, and on his death washed his body and lowered it into the grave. Hazrat Zaid bin Haritha. Zaid was born around 576 to 581 AD to Haritha bin Sharabil and Suda bint mm, Salaba. Salaba. He accompanied his mother to visit her relatives at a very young age. He was kidnapped and sold to Hazrat Khadija's nephew, who gave him to his aunt. After Khadija's marriage, Zayd was presented to the Prophet by her. After some years, Zayd's relatives reached Mecca and recognized him near the Kaaba. When they approached him, he refused to go with them. To go back to his family. Then Asad became a freed man and would now be called as Asad bin Muhammad as per the Arab customs of those days. When the Prophet formally declared prophethood in 610, Zayd was the fourth convert to Islam. Zayd was married unto Ayman Baraka, and the freed slave girl of the Prophet. Sad accompanied the Prophet in 620. When the Prophet visited Al-Taif, he continuously protected the Prophet from the stones pelted at him by the people of the town. After the Prophet's migration to Medina, he was sent to Mecca to bring the Prophet's wives and his daughters, Kulthum and Fatima. Zayd married the Prophet's cousin, Zainab bint Jahsh. In 625 AD, Zainab was uncomfortable with Zayd's background as a slave, so the marriage proved unsuccessful and ended in divorce after 1 year. Soon after this, the revelation of Surah 33, Ayat 37, God allowed the Prophet to marry Hazrat Zainab. Similarly, the legal status of the adopted son was also explained in the same surah. Call them adopted sons by the names of their fathers. That is more than just in the sight of God. Surah 33, Ayat 5, Al-Ahzab. He participated in the battles of Badr, Uhud, and Khandak, and was also present on the signing of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. In 888, Hazrat Zaid was martyred in the Battle of Mu'tah. B. The Prophet extended fatherly love to Hazrat Ali in order to ease the burden of Hazrat Abu Talib. He acted as his mentor and educated him in all earthly and spiritual affairs. Muslims today can follow the Prophet by sharing the burden of their relatives. The Prophet had been brought up as an orphan by Hazrat Abu Talib, and by taking Hazrat Ali under his custody, the Prophet acknowledged his uncle's special love, his orphan nephew, for his orphan nephew. Muslims today can educate and to train the unsupported relatives in order to strengthen family ties. Hazrat was adopted by the Prophet and treated him as his son. Muslims today need to learn that irrespective of blood relations, young unsupported fellows can be brought up as their own children. Once a child is adopted, he or she should never feel any discrimination by the parents or siblings. This will make such young people healthy members of the community.